Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Whistlethrowers. It's a great way to interact with our show. Our DMs are always open for questions, topic discussions, and more. You will be able to find our new episodes and other announcements there.
Thanks for tuning in to the Whistlethrowers podcast. This is Jack Mobarek. I'm joined back with Aidan, came from vacation, and we got a special guest, comes from all the way around the world, his twin brother, Caleb Tyksinski.
How's it going tonight?
Are we ready to jump in? I got questions for you. You're a D3 rugby superstar at Susquehanna University. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I wouldn't call myself a superstar, but they could call me that if they want. So yeah, I've been playing rugby since I was 11, and I wasn't really recruited. I had like one or two coaches who talked to me, and I went to Susquehanna my junior year, and I loved it. I loved the culture and the coaching staff as well, and that's what really drew me to play there.
Yeah, so what's interesting about D3 and especially rugby compared to other sports is the recruiting process. It's very informal. Do you want to go a little bit into what that was sort of like compared to what NCAA Division I players or even NCAA sanctioned sports have to go through?
Yeah, so like Aiden was saying, it's definitely different. So we don't really get recruiting letters or whatnot. The reason why I was introduced to Susquehanna was because someone that I knew since I was like 5, his dad basically brought me to go to a game there, and his son, like I said, went there, and that's how I met Doc, the coach, and how I met everyone on the team. That's like sanctioned because the NCAA is not involved at all. So, like, I went and spent the night there, and, like, that was allowed. If you play D1, and also we're a club, so we're not varsity either. So it's very, like Aiden was saying, informal. And what else is cool is, like, for me, it was definitely, like, a better perspective of the campus, I feel like. Because if you go D1, it's very much... It's basically like a fiction, like it's a fictional look at what the school is. It's very superficial in this sense, where like I got to experience the whole school and what it was like to be a student there and a rugby player.
Not just Susquehanna, was it like hard having the universities like contact you because it's like rugby?
That's the issue with rugby especially. You kind of have to put yourself out there. Coaches won't contact you. You have to do it all yourself.
What did you do to get contacted?
I got lucky. So basically, like I said, I've been playing a long time, so I have contacts with different clubs, and it would just so happen that someone else was playing there from a club that I knew. So if I didn't have those contacts, I would not have gone to Susquehanna. And I feel like that's something that could be a lot better. I could go into this a little bit, just about like how rugby could definitely be better with that. And I feel like yes, the players should be doing some stuff, but I feel like it's also high school coach, well, especially club, because a lot of rugby is club. And I feel like if you're on a club team, coaches should have to it should be a priority for coaches to get their players to go and play at a higher level. So the coaches should be ones that make these contacts as well and gets players to go to these schools. And I feel like especially clubs are dying right now, especially after COVID. So a way for clubs to be better is to have these coaches contact these schools. So then you can basically streamline players from the club level up to the college level.
Do you see the game expanding at all in the United States?
I do. So actually, where we went to high school, Central Bucks West, they've been thinking about making a club team at the school. And on the one hand, this is just my perspective. On the one hand, it's great for the sport. On the other hand, like I said, we have a club in Doylestown. So it's going to be very different playing at a school club level and then playing on another club level as well. I'm interested to see where it goes. Throughout the country, though, I've seen rugby expand a lot, especially with the U.S. national team. They've played all over the country at this point. They played at Soldier Field. They've played at the Union Stadium before. I went to that game. They played at FedEx Field. It's growing rapidly. It's a very good thing, but it also needs to, I feel like, right now it's a lot like the Wild West. Like, I would compare it to, like, NCAA football in the 80s, where it was, like, players would not kind of just go wherever. It was kind of just, like, you can make, like, super teams with, like, all your friends and whatever, which is cool, but it's also, like, it takes away the competition, I feel like. So we have to find a balance with trying to grow the sport to make the U.S. national team better, while also making sure that at the club level and the high school level and the college level, it's fair competition throughout.
Where does the United States team stand amongst the world?
So they actually just lost to Chile in a game they should have won. That would have made them qualified for the World Cup. So they're fighting for a World Cup spot right now. So usually they're in, I would say, the top 25, which isn't terrible, especially since we focus, especially in the U.S., in baseball, basketball, and American football especially. And even lacrosse takes away rugby players because it's during the same season. It's definitely gotten a lot better in the last, even I would say, 20 years. The U.S. now has a competitive professional league, which I'm not sure a lot of people know about. It's called Major League Rugby if you want to look it up. And it's growing the sport, and I feel like it's helping. It just hasn't translated to the national level yet, which I think we'll see in the next couple World Cups.
Yes, so you got recruited 2020. Obviously, the pandemic took away your senior season of high school. The fall season for college, or the fall is the 15 season for college, and you didn't really have a spring schedule either. Talk to me about what that was like, just not really having your senior season of high school, and then losing most of your freshman season due to COVID.
A lot of people know this. It sucked, because that was my year to really, I just got into school, so I was like, okay, now I can just focus on rugby, and I can grow my skill level to be where I want it to be, going like that transition from senior year to freshman year of college, and maybe I'll get a chance to really show myself, so by my sophomore year, I'll have a standing ground of maybe playing first side. And COVID really did some damage. I got really out of shape. I mean, not playing at all for we basically didn't play I didn't play an entire year. I practiced somewhat. I left school early my freshman year though, because I didn't because I knew we weren't going to have a rugby season, and being stuck in a dorm room with and not being able to go out and then have actual college experience, it just wasn't fun to me. So basically my sophomore year was basically my freshman year of rugby, where I was finally playing full time. I mean, I'm a relatively skinny dude anyway, but I put on 20 pounds of just pure fat. So I came back my sophomore year and got shin splints my first couple weeks. So I didn't really I played half of my fall season pretty much. And then finally, by the spring, I slimmed down back to where I wanted to be. I actually I was one of the last 20 people to stay for the national championship team. Unfortunately, I didn't make it, but just being able to have that last week, it really showed me that if I keep working at this during the summer, I can get to that level.
Obviously, I know this, and you kind of do as well. Susquehanna is very well known within the small school division of rugby. Talking about that was meeting a few people that are now in Major League Rugby, and how that helped with the recruiting process of picking a smaller school rather than going to D1.
Someone that actually used to play for the club that I do is now who went to play for my club and at Susquehanna, is now playing professional rugby down in Dallas. And his name's Raheem Powell. I knew Raheem, I remember seeing Raheem when I was 11 and he was 15. He was 3 times the size I was, and I was and I remember him winning MVP or whatever, and I was I can do that. I just have to get better. And I did, and it was one of those things that I remember vividly. So when I learned Raheem was going there, I was okay, that's cool, another Doylestown guy and whatever. And then I met, actually, the first time I visited was homecoming, and another Doylestown guy who graduated was one of the first people I met. So I started seeing the connections between Doylestown and Susquehanna, and just knowing that, I'm going to be honest, I do not want to play professionally, but knowing that that's where that could take me, or seeing that the level of coaching that's there can get players to that level, it's okay, we could win a national championship here, or at least compete every year I'm here. And that's what I want to do. So once I saw that, I was this is where I want to play, because I wanted Doylestown. I want a state championship. I want to get to the next level in my rugby career. And I felt like Susquehanna could do that.
Did you seriously consider any other schools?
Not really. I'm going to be honest. After I went to Susquehanna twice, I was that's pretty much it for me. Like I said, the last time I visited was admissions day, and we had a 3-hour conversation with a coach just about life and rugby. And I was I haven't done this anywhere else. I've never met a coach who's that involved with every small thing of your life. And that was really impactful for me, because I wanted someone who was going to be someone that if I needed help, I could talk to, or if they, someone, like I said, who could help me with my rugby career. I know that I can go here and that will help me.
You said you don't want to play professionally, but do you see yourself in the future being a part of rugby still, through coaching or?
Yeah, so, I mean, rugby's an interesting sport, because there's clubs all over the country, men's teams that I could play for after. If I really want to, at this point, I just want to get through college. And then after that, I'll see how my body is. I would like to at least still be involved in some way, whether that's recruiting or even possibly coaching in the future or possibly reffing, although I will say based on my playing experience, I would not want to be a ref at any level, but we'll see what happens.
So obviously last year you guys finished 8th, 9th in the country.
So we finished. I think it was 8th. Yeah. So you guys 8th or 10th.
Yeah. So you guys finished in the top 10 for the national championship. What is the expectations for your team going into the fall and the spring of this next coming year?
So in our fall 15 season, we lost in the first round of the playoffs to Loyola, who we beat 3 times in the spring. At this point, our goal is to get to that next. So the highest that we finished ever in 15s was in the top 15. Well, obviously the goal is to get to the national championship. It's going to be tough. We've lost a lot of great players, but we have a lot of incoming underclassmen who played on the starting side. I actually haven't gotten any. I got like 1 or 2 games of starting time. So that really shows like the competition that's there, which is great because that means that we have younger guys now who have played at that level. So our goal is to win out our conference, get to the playoffs, and then just take it game by game from there. But we don't want to look over any opponents. We had a couple tough games last year against York College and Bloomsburg. So I feel like in those games, we kind of overlooked our opponents a little too much, and we just can't do that again.
Talk about the toll on your body from like rugby. Do you have to condition a lot?
Yeah, so we do a lot of conditioning. During the spring, we were doing 2-a-days, 4 days a week. We practiced 5 days a week, which was also something tough for me because like the club level, we were playing 3 days a week. We'd have 2 practices a week for an hour and a half, and then we'd have a game. At college, we're practicing 5 days a week and then having a game on Saturday. So it's 6 days in a row of constant rugby. And then 4 days of that is conditioning in the morning. So we did like mile runs, 2-mile runs, sprints. So it's definitely a lot. I feel like at this point I can say that I'm in probably the best shape that I've been in running wise. I used to hate running. I will say that I've gotten a lot better about it. I've slacked off a little bit during the summer, which I hate to admit. I do need to get back into it, but at least going into camp, I'll say that I'm in the best shape that I've been in. So definitely the spring helped with that a lot.
And I think that's pretty much. I don't have any more questions unless you do, Jack.
Yeah, no, right on. That's rugby's not my forte.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. I like genuinely want to learn more about this.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's definitely cool. I will say before we add on, we actually had a guy from our local club, Mike Weir, get drafted tonight into Major League Rugby. He's going to be playing for Old Glory DC down in Washington DC. So it is definitely, as you asked Jack, it is evolving as a sport. It's cool to see local guys compete at that level, and hopefully it keeps growing at a national level and we become better internationally. But yeah, it's definitely a very cool sport.
And just to add on, someone that I played with in high school just played in the club national championships for 7, and they just finished top 2. So we have guys playing all over the country.
You said someone you went to high school with. Do I know him?
No. Okay. We like someone I played with at the high school level. But he went to New Hope Silbury.
Okay.
Are you ready to jump into the topics for tonight, Jack?
Well, actually, I want to know a little bit about you.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, when we were filming the Paul episode, I was playing poker after I met Caleb at the table. I thought he was you for a while, though. We'll forget about that. I thought you were still on vacation, but then I didn't see you at the table, and I found out you were at the Eagles preseason.
I was, yes.
Yeah, you want to talk about what you were doing there?
Yes, so it's pretty crazy. Caleb, obviously, he's my twin brother, so we were in Vermont. We were supposed to be there we went on a Sunday, and we were supposed to be there till Friday. Wednesday night, right before the Eagles preseason game, I got a text from one of my friends that goes to LaSalle saying she had a job opportunity through CBS Sports to be a runner for them. So I actually got to work the Eagles preseason game, and that was a really cool experience.
Talk to any of the players?
I did not, no. No. We're all, when you're at that level working for a company like that, you all just want to be professional. I will say there was one point where the whole Jets team did walk by me and I was trying not to be too starstruck, but when you're not really ever around that many pro athletes and then you just get thrown right into it, it's hard not to be starstruck like that.
Yeah, especially seeing the GOAT Zach Wilson.
That dude's an animal, literally. Yeah. Aidan, do you want to tell us what you did specifically as a runner at the game?
Yeah, so as a runner, most of the stuff that you have to do is really before the game. If anyone needs supplies, you have to run out and get them. You have to help set up with food and stuff. So it's a lot like what you do. It's what you think of a regular internship, but rather than being an intern in like some sort of stuffy building or whatever, you're working at a professional sporting event, which is just a really cool opportunity, especially for me who grew up loving sports and wanted to be in broadcasting business.
Are you going to do that again in the near future? Or?
Hopefully so. At this point, I filled out my paperwork part of CBS Sports, so it's really whenever they come back. Unfortunately, with the NFL contract, CBS Sports does all the AFC broadcast. Fox has the NFC contract. So unless an AFC team were to come to Philly, I wouldn't really work too many games during that season, but they do. CBS Sports does college basketball as well. They have a lot of other contracts with different sports leagues. So there's definitely plenty of opportunities within Philadelphia. So hopefully so. Fingers crossed.
So more special missions to be continued.
Yes, for sure.
Nice. And before we jump into sports, I just came up with this off the fly. I want to do a fantasy football lineup submission. So you could DM your best lineups to us on our Instagram page at Whistle Throwers. We will pick one that we all think is our favorite, and we'll give you $10-$20, something like that. To be determined. More details to come, but yeah.
I'm loving this. I can't wait to see people's lineups.
Yeah. I'm not picking anyone who doesn't have Derrick Henry's or.
I was about to say Derrick Henry first round.
Yeah, exactly. He looked at me like I'm crazy. Wait, are you being sarcastic?
Oh, he's definitely
a little bit.
Oh,
you'll get it eventually, Jack. Eventually.
All right. Fernando Tatis got caught with PEDs and he's missing 80 games.
Yeah, at this point, I think that was 5 days. So yeah, 78 to 75 at this point. So we'll definitely go into next season.
What are your general thoughts on the whole situation?
So my thoughts, first looking at this, when you have a player like that, you want to look at his contract because the Padres have invested a lot into him. He's a younger guy. He's one of the bigger contracts in baseball. So his contract right now, he's in the second year of his 14-year $340 million contract. That is a lot of money invested in him. So the Padres obviously are looking long-term. So in the short term, yes, this will hurt them a lot. But it won't even really hurt them that much because when you look at this lineup, this is the starting lineup that they have tonight against the Washington Nationals. That game's happening right now. So their starting lineup is Trent Grisham leading off, who's batting 199. He's their worst hitter. Juan Soto's your second guy. Manny Machado's third. Brandon Drury's fourth. Josh Bell's fifth. Josh Cronworth is sixth. And then your 7, 8, 9 is Will Myers, Ha-Sung Kim, and Austin Nola. That is a great lineup to have, and you're missing one of the best players in baseball in Tatis. So really short-term it doesn't hurt the Padres. Long-term it doesn't because you already have a lot invested. My biggest concern with this is that it showed the lack of communication between Tatis and the Padres. We're going to get into more about what was said between them, but I will say that it seemed like that there was a lack of communication between Tatis, who didn't communicate that he was hurt the first time with a motorcycle accidents now that left him out of the Padres lineup all season up till now. And it's just the fact that he didn't communicate what he was putting in his body. If you are a young baseball player, or baseball player period, and you have an ailment and need some sort of medication for it, you better be damn sure what is in that medication. You can't be taking any risk or else something like this will happen. Now, some people might say that it's because Tatis was actually cheating and he definitely knew what he's saying, and that could be very well the case. But if you are going by what he is saying and that he didn't know what he was taking, that's not on the doctors. That's not on the Padres. That's on Tatis communicating with the doctors and Padres. Hey, I'm a professional baseball player. There's certain things that I can't take, and if there's something in here, I need to make sure.
So you think this is all an accident?
I don't think it was an accident. I just think that it didn't seem like he knew. So kind of an accident, but not really. It's more that he needs to be sure what he's putting in his body.
Okay. Do you think this will tarnish his legacy?
It's hard to say at this point. Again, he is only 23, so he could very well play another 17 seasons, 18 seasons. Obviously, he's been hurt a lot. He's kind of reckless, it seems like, and that's understandable for a younger guy. You think that you're invincible, but he sort of has to start realizing he's not. These motorcycle accidents, I would say, are a bigger problem to me than the steroids or whatever it was he was putting in his body. And that's only because if you're being that reckless off the field, that sort of tells me as a team, hey, you're not really that invested in the long-term success of this team or the long-term success of you. You're just trying to get as much money out of us as possible before calling career at 27. Sort of like what happened to Yoenis Cespedes, who also got hurt at a very young age and sort of hasn't played because of that.
I didn't know about the motorcycle. Like, damn, he's really living on the edge.
Yeah.
So I just have one question and one comment. So my question is, why was it 80 games instead of the 50, or is that the rule now?
So the rule was after the biogenesis scandal with A-Rod and 13 or so other players, the MLB made the policy much more strict. So now it's, if you get caught the first time, it's 82 games, half a season. Second time, it's a full season, 162 games. Third time, you're done for baseball.
Because I saw unconfirmed comments that he had tested positive in the minors. I don't know where it was just like some comment I saw and I couldn't confirm that. So I was wondering if like they did okay, so good. He only
This is only his first time, yeah.
Okay.
So adding on to that then, I feel like this is very much like a Nelson Cruz situation in 2012 where it was that he was hurt and he was trying to come back quicker. And yes, that's still illegal. It's not like as bad as he was trying to juice just to get his numbers up. He was trying to come back. The thing is, people I know baseball is different and sports are different, but normal people will do that for their jobs anyway. I know guys that will do whatever it takes to come back and play their sport, whether or not it's ethical or whether or not it's legal. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying what happens.
I will say with Tatis, this feels a little bit different only because of what he was caught with. Basically, it was like I forget the exact name of the steroid that was in it, but it was a cream, and it's not really a pill or injection that you would get with a steroid where you're trying to beef up. Most of the time with this cream, if you're trying to juice with what he was caught with, it's to cover up other steroids as well, or it's just a mixture of stuff that you're putting together to become stronger. So if this is the only thing he was caught with, I will say that the ringworm excuse that he was trying to use
was valid.
Or that it seems like it kind of was. Again, it's not that, and I still don't think it's okay, not because it was just, like, it wasn't to beef up or juice or anything. It's because you are supposed to communicate with your team, with the league, what you can put in your body. If you're not doing that, that is completely on you as a player.
And you touched on it earlier, like you mentioned A-Rod and everything, and you guys both saw, like, him sitting down with Derek Jeter, and they were talking about Tatis and like had like a teacher moment, and he was like, not make the same mistakes that I did. I got two questions in one. Do you think that A-Rod's like unofficial banishment from the Hall of Fame is justified? And do you think that Tatis would be subjected to similar treatment due to what just happened?
So I have A-Rod's two quotes that A-Rod said that stuck out to me. The first one was, I'm not going to make it to the Hall of Fame because of my mistake. And I made sure that was correct. He said mistake singular. Now, there was two times that he tested positive for PEDs. The first time he didn't officially test, but he admitted in 2009 to taking PEDs in 2003. So that's the first time. He then in 2013, he didn't test positive for it, but it is very clear that he was taking steroids again through the biogenesis scandal. So that's not one mistake, that's two. And that's telling me that you really do not care about trying to compete ethically. That's just trying to be the best player of all time, doing whatever you can to get to that level. The second one that it came out was, I wish a lot of young players would learn from my stupidity and basically my mistake. He basically said mistake as well, didn't really say which time it was. I do think that A-Rod should not be in the Hall of Fame because it wasn't just one time. And there was a couple other players before 2003 that had tested positive. David Ortiz is probably the biggest name that was on a list of 100 players that were tested just for MLB to get sort of an idea of how many people were using steroids. Again, it should, and I don't feel like that should be used against any player just because it was pre-MLB actually doing something about these scandals, about the competitive imbalance where players take steroids versus not taking steroids. But I do think that afterwards, you should definitely, like post 2005, if you use steroids, that should definitely be held against you. So, Barry Bonds played post 2005, probably still using steroids. Roger Clemens pitched well past 2005, probably was also taking steroids at that point as well. But I think after that, so A-Rod should still be held against him because of what happened in 2013. As for Tatis, I really don't know. The player I'm looking at to see whether or not they get in the Hall of Fame, it's a little bit different circumstances, is Jose Altuve. Jose Altuve was the star of the 2017 Astros team that got in trouble for cheating, using a lot of microphones, cameras, to try to figure out what pitches were going to be thrown to the batters. I feel like that if Jose Altuve gets in, with everything that he was definitely caught with, I feel like that might show that there's a shift between the writers allowing people who cheated to get in the Hall of Fame, and therefore Tatis might actually have a pass, but I'm not certain for sure.
So do you think Mark McGwire should be in the Hall of Fame then? Because he retired in 2001.
I think it's a little bit different between a guy who's using, like, for example, I said Ortiz or anyone before 2003 shouldn't get in trouble. The difference between Ortiz and all these other guys, they weren't making record-breaking numbers up up to that point where Maguire and Sammy Sosa and Barry Bonds all changed the records in baseball by heavily cheating, not just because they were at like the beginning of their career, weren't really sure if it was going to work out. People have to forget that David Ortiz was playing with the Minnesota Twins for 6 seasons before he went to the Red Sox. And he was basically almost an unknown during that time, where Barry Bonds hit 73 home runs in 2001 and Maguire hit 70 in 1998. Those are record-breaking numbers that you can't be in the Hall of Fame cheating based off that.
So you hit it around the dot. That's what my point was going to be, that you can't break records while cheating and then think you're going to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, because, yeah, everyone did it in the 90s, but not everyone was juicing to the point where they were breaking those records. And yes, you can make the argument that, like, yeah, you could hit a baseball like without taking steroids. But I'm sorry, Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire were not going to hit the ball as hard, or Sammy Sosa, we're going to hit the ball as hard as they were hitting it during those years.
So moral of the story is basically everyone cheats in baseball.
Pretty much. See, yeah, I mean, there's certain guys that don't. The one guy who I was a little bit interested in was Pedro Martinez. He also made a comment about this. He definitely did not take steroids. He was always a smaller guy on the mound. He could just throw the ball really hard for his size. But he basically said it was on the Padres for what happened to Tatis, which I think is a little bit ridiculous. And it's really kind of interesting that someone with Pedro Martinez is in baseball intelligence would be willing to say that, because it is such a controversial statement. Most guys, when they were at the peak of their eras, post 1996, definitely took steroids.
Alright, so that's enough baseball for today. I heard too much cheating going on. In other worlds, the NBA schedule got released. Shocker, they play the same teams the same amount of times, just like every year. But the NBA does put good matchups on opening night, Christmas. I think that's it.
Some New Year's games if they feel like it.
Yeah, they don't want to work too hard. But do any matchups stick out to you guys?
So I wrote down a few that stuck out to me from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The season starts Tuesday the 18th. So Wednesday the 19th, this is just because of all the storylines that will be surrounding this game. Pelicans are playing the Nets on national TV Wednesday, October 19th. The reason this game sticks out to me so much is because the NBA is scheduling this game because of 2 stars, Zion Williamson and Kevin Durant. Now, Williamson hasn't played with the Pelicans in, 2 years now? It's going to be?
I thought it was a
year and a half.
Yeah.
So he hasn't really played with them, and he's asked to be traded out of New Orleans. It didn't seem like that the Pelicans were willing to agree with that. So it sort of seems like that he's like, okay, I guess I'll play because this is the team I'm with. But the moment that I'm a free agent, I'm going to dip.
I thought he just signed an extension.
He did.
Yeah, but it seemed like he kind of did that because he was like, no other team's going to want me because I haven't played in a while. I feel like no team's going to, if you haven't played in a year and a half, and this was like your first year, and there's questions about your weight, and whether or not you really care about being an NBA player, no team is going to be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to throw out money to you, like the Sixers did to Ben Simmons, because everyone saw how great that worked out. But the other reason it's interesting is because we talked about Kevin Durant, one of our first episodes, but he might not be on the Nets either. So you're really basing this game hoping that these two guys are going to be actually playing in this game. If they're not, this game's going to tank, but if both of them play, it could be an absolute success for the NBA. So I'm willing to see this one.
I'm so done with the Zion hype. I think he's bulky Ben Simmons. Like, they act the same way, and he didn't really catch, like, the slack that Ben did when they essentially kind of did the same thing. Like, granted, he came back, but he played like a fraction of the time, a fraction of the games, and he wanted to go to a winning situation. Like, dude, you didn't even play 100 games yet. His play style, I don't think compares to, like, dominant play styles like Giannis. Like, he could throw down, like, really hard, but, like, Blake Griffin fizzled out. Like, Russell Westbrook fizzled out, and none of those guys, like, led their teams to the championship. Neither of them have rings. And that play style is super destructive on the body. And Zion just showed time and time again he doesn't really care about conditioning. He put on a lot of weight. We don't know what he's going to look like whenever he comes back, because who knows if he's going to play opening night. He's bulky Simmons. Like, I don't want to touch him with a 10-foot pole.
Don't want him on the Sixers?
Hell no. Hell no. No.
As a backup, you can be 6-man. Just put him in for like 15, 20 minutes and let him do his thing.
Oh yeah, he'll be a 6-man, then he'll sit out and eat more food.
Yeah, the most expensive 6-man in NBA history.
Yeah, I just don't see the hype, and the last couple guys who've been compared to LeBron are not him. Not him at all, but...
I mean, on the bright side, at least he's in New Orleans, so he can not only get away with this, but, like, I feel like he'll have more time to mature. Whereas the Sixers, we needed someone to win now, and Ben Simmons was not that guy.
No.
So I feel like Williamson, if he matures, and I mean, CJ McCollum's there too, and McCollum is a veteran who wants the best out of every guy who's there. So I feel like since the Pelicans have a longer time span, I feel like it might be a better situation for him, because not only will I feel like he could be someone who might mature a little more than Simmons did, just because Simmons was played in one of the high-stakes situations in the NBA, and you can't fold there.
Yeah, that is a good point. I didn't think of it that way. All I'm saying is I would hate to be an athlete in New Orleans that isn't a member of the Saints. Like,
well, that's the whole issue with Zion, why the Pelicans have given him so much time, is because they are banking on all their success on him. I mean, yes, they brought in McCollum. Yes, they made that trade with Lonzo Ball to bring in Ingram and who else? Kevin... Was it Hart? Is that his name?
Josh Hart.
Josh Hart, yeah. I was going to say Kevin Hart. That's definitely not it. But yeah, Josh Hart.
He's not on the team anymore.
Is Hart on the team?
I thought...
No, he got traded.
That's right.
He got traded to McCollum.
That's right.
Yeah,
but so they brought in McCollum still. They have Ingram, who's turned into an awesome shooter, by the way, even though it seemed like he was going to fizzle out with the Lakers and then got his second chance. But really, the Pelicans are going to give Zion as many opportunities as he wants, because they gave that first overall pick, to get him. They're going to let him sort of do what he wants. And at a certain point, you can't do that as a franchise. These days, the Pelicans have never had any actual success, especially since Chris Paul left there.
Anthony Davis, too.
Yeah, exactly. They haven't had any real success in order to know what it's like to be a successful franchise. I feel like in the long run, that's what's going to hurt Zion.
I also think it was really, like, a bad move to let Lonzo... Well, he didn't walk. They traded him. Personally, I think if I stuck up a mirror, like, to the Pelicans, on the other side, it would show the Bulls. Like, I see the same exact situation. Like, they won't beat any of the top 3 seeds in each conference. They're going to be exciting, like, so you'd think, but they're not going to be good. They're not going to win games. They'll be fun because of the names, but it's not going to work for a winning situation.
No, and I think bringing up the Bulls was an interesting point, just because they had, so, like you said, it's a team with a lot of exciting players. DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo, a couple other guys as well that they brought in, but it just didn't work. And the issue is that you sort of have to find a team that actually flows well together. You can't just get a bunch of guys that are star talented, like you said, and expect that to work. I mean, the Lakers tried that, and they won one championship because LeBron and AD were able to stay healthy through the entire NBA bubble, and that was basically the only reason they won. But most of the time, since the super team that was put together in Miami with LeBron, Wade, Chris Bosh, there hasn't really been a successful team like that. It has gone together through
free agency.
Yeah, exactly.
Signings,
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple teams, like the Warriors have drafted really well and then brought in Durant, and that helped a lot. But most of that team was built off of draft picks.
Well, yeah, I really got sidetracked. I'm a Zion hater, so yeah. Let's go back to scheduled games.
For sure. The one other game, I mean, there's a couple other games right during that week. The Sixers play the Celtics on Tuesday, and then the Bucks Thursday, and then they play the Nets November 22nd. That will be really fun, especially because around that same week, the Commanders come to Philadelphia, so you'll see Carson Wentz coming back to Philly, and then you'll also get to see Ben Simmons playing against Philly in the same week. Yeah, if both of them play, exactly.
They should share a hotel room.
You would...
$90 is Carson Wentz either gets hurt or is benched by the time he plays Philly.
But wait, who's the backup of what's his
Heineke?
Yeah, we'll probably see him a lot. But going back to the schedule, again, there's a lot of stars to the teams. I like looking at these smaller market games and teams that maybe people aren't as high on just because of the names are going to be mentioned. So the other one that stuck out to me, this is half a month of the season. Monday, November 7th, Thunder versus Pistons. Chet Holmgren versus Cade Cunningham. I'm excited to see the two guys who are supposed to be the future of the NBA going head to head. I know that Holmgren is a center, Cade Cunningham's a point guard, but still, these are the two guys who are expected to lead the NBA's future for the next who knows how many years. So seeing those two teams playing against each other, two teams that really don't have much going for them at this point, but hope to have a really bright future in the next 5 years or so. I'm excited to see that match and to see what both those teams can do.
Do you buy, like, the Chet hype?
I'm interested in him. I think center with his size, with his shooting ability, doesn't really come around a lot. I mean, yeah, you can throw out names of guys in the current NBA. Porzingis, obviously, people are going to compare to him a lot. I'm interested to see how he does in a small market. I mean, Porzingis, when he got drafted, went to New York. Yeah. Regardless of how bad the Knicks are, you're expected to compete right away. Holmgren's going to have a year or two, especially with all the picks the Thunders have, that team could be really good. So, I don't know. I'm expecting him to lead the team for the next 2 to 3 years until those draft picks that they get drafted and developed. But I do buy into him with what he has seemed to be able to do in the summer league in college, and I think it can translate to the NBA game. Obviously, you have to wait and see, but I kind of am in with the hype.
Yeah, a talent basis and like his archetype, I think he could be a better Porzingis, but what I will give him is he's on a small market team, like you said, and a lot of those small market teams aren't run well. You can't say that about the Thunder. They're run very well. They've done a lot of things right. I mean, granted, they didn't win a ring, and have they ever won a ring?
No, they haven't since they were in Seattle. They won. Did they win one in Seattle?
I think they won one.
Not in the 90s.
It was like the 70s.
Not since they moved to OKC. But yeah, as you point out, they still were competitive. Still made it to an NBA championship. Yeah, they lost to the Heat.
That's more than most small market teams.
Pretty much the only small market team that actually won.
Spurs
and Dallas. And Dallas isn't even that small market because you got Mark Cuban throwing out millions of dollars and you're like, here, take this.
Also, so you had a once in a lifetime player in Dirk Nowitzki. Sorry, the last name.
Your last name's Tyksinski.
Yeah, German and Polish last names. I can pronounce mine, but I can't pronounce any others.
I would hope you could pronounce your own name.
But yeah, going back to the schedule, I think those two games stick out to me the most, the ones that I highlighted. What, you guys have any games that you're looking forward to stick out to you?
I think I'm going to go on a rant again. I mean, I'm happy they finally gave the Sixers credit. And like, I can remember the last time we had a Christmas game, and we've been good for several years now, like top 10 teams, and there's 5 games on Christmas, so technically we should be on there because they should play the best guys. The opening matchup is really good. It's one of the few, I say this really loosely, rivalries. I don't think there are any actual rivalries in basketball, not even the Lakers and Celtics.
That's a hot take.
I mean, yeah, there's history to it, but like, these guys don't go at it really, do they?
Not the same that you, like, Yankees, Red Sox, you expect something to happen every single series.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely get what you're saying, where they don't, I feel like the players, maybe in basketball, for whatever reason, don't understand the history as much as other sports do. Maybe that's just because with the fact that there's only 82 games, or the fact that most of these games are on national TV and not like the market base, or the fact that we've sort of highlighted, Jack, in your first rant, how every team plays each other all the time. That doesn't really give it that much time to create a rivalry, because unlike baseball right now where you play your rival 6 series in a row more than any other team, basketball you're only playing them 4 times. Mm-hmm. That's not really that much to create like a hotbed rivalry unless you face them in the playoffs every single time, and the Sixers haven't been good enough, and the Celtics before 2015, 2016 or so weren't good enough to play each other in the playoffs every single time. So yeah, I sort of agree that those rivalries aren't as intense.
And you mentioned the MLB and the NFL, and they have something in common, and I think it is the reason that rivalries are actually a thing in those leagues and not in basketball. I think it's because they utilize divisions, and in the 100%. NBA, it's conference. They don't at all.
Yeah. No, it's literally based on conference, and it sort of seems like the NBA is even trying to get rid of the conference alignment as well, almost. Mm-hmm. Which, I don't know. If that's really what you want to do, go ahead. People are still going to watch basketball regardless. I don't think it's going to hurt your product at all. It's just going to get rid of that regional rivalries that were so much fun. True for when the NBA was still in its beginning in the 60s, 70s, 80s, which is why Sixers fans from that era do not like the Celtics at all. Mm-hmm. Where now, if you have someone who's 15, 20 years old, yeah, you're not going to like the Celtics because they're competing against your team. But it's not because of that ingrained rivalry that you have in baseball or football.
And I think, like, it's so frustrating for me because, like, the only rivalries we've been getting recently is the DeJounte Murray and the Paolo Banchero, and like that wasn't in an NBA game, and like there's not a lot of context.
Isn't it a pro-am game?
Yeah, like who cares? Like they literally they made something out of nothing, and they're like hyping up their games now, but they're not gonna do like anything when they see each other.
It gave off Eminem, Machine Gun Kelly vibes.
Exactly.
Like it was just Twitter beef. Yeah. It was entertaining, but it wasn't like, there's no substance behind it.
Yeah, there is hope with the Memphis Grizzlies and the Warriors. Only because Draymond, I'm surprised Clay did what he did. That threw me off. I've never seen him in that light.
Here's the thing though, for me, like, come playoff time, you get, like, I hate the Heat at this point, and it's just based on the playoffs. There's something about playoff basketball that just brings out the nastiness, the 80s and 90s, and I don't know what it is, because like Aiden and Jack were saying, like, it's calm, like, during the regular season, but there's like a switch that turns once you get in the playoff mode, and I love it, because you start seeing, like, the more physicality. I don't know if it's something that the league tells the refs, like, keep it going, or if it's just a player's mentality that it's win now. I love seeing the Heat games, and I love seeing Celtics-Sixers playoffs.
Yeah, there's obvious instigators like Pat Beverly, like he really ignited the playoffs even before they started. Everyone felt some type of way about it, but I loved it because most of the players hated it, right? But they all got pissed off and they wanted to absolutely beat the brakes off the Timberwolves.
Not to get too far off topic, when the Sixers played the Nets in their second year they made it to playoffs, Jared Dudley, right?
Yeah.
He was annoying as heck. It was about that entire playoff series against Embiid. Like, literally all he was doing was trying to instigate Embiid.
I love it, though.
I know, I love it, too. But that's the whole thing. Like, you don't get that in the regular season. Like, there's not anyone that, like, I'm, like, actively rooting against in the regular season because nobody's doing stuff like that. Come playoff time, there's definitely heroes and there's definitely villains. And I think that if that happened more in the regular season, it would be way more exciting. But as my uncle said when he visited 2 weeks ago, the most exciting part of the NBA seasons is the off-season and the playoffs. The regular season means pretty much absolutely nothing because you know the 8 teams are going to be really, really good in like 4 in the East, 4 in the West, and then there's just the rest of them.
As long as you make the playoffs, that's pretty much just make the playoffs and you'll be okay. I mean, now it's a little different with like the playing games because I would hate to be one of those teams that's like not the top 8. Because at least if you're that 8th seed, you can lose one game and be okay. But I would not want to be one of those last teams and have to play 2 games.
In other words, LeBron got extended.
He did.
Yeah, so now he has the most guaranteed money thrown at him since entering the league, $532 million. Formerly held record was Kevin Durant. Thoughts on that? He's stuck in the Lakers. I wouldn't want to be him, but he has a lot of money.
I mean, you're stuck in LA. If you're going to be stuck in a city, it might as well be one of the night. Look, you got great temperature, you got great publicity.
True.
He's at the end of his career. He's already won 4 rings now. I mean, yeah, it would be nice for him to win another one. I'm a little bit interested by this move, only because of what's happened the last couple of years. So, as you said, it's a 2-year, $97.1 million extension. It does have another year option after that as well. At the end of the 2 years, he'll be 40. At the end of the third year, he'll be 41. So maybe he's just signed his contract so he can maybe play with Bronny. That's sort of something that he's highlighted he wants to do. I'd be interested to see if that happens. The issue that I have with this contract is that it seems like Lakers are just doing this because it's LeBron James and not because they can get anything out of it. Last year, he only played 56 games. Yeah, he was great in those 56 games. He averaged 30.3 points per game, 8.2 rebounds per game, 6.2 assists per game, and had over a steal and a block as well to go along with that. But the last time LeBron played 70 games, I was interested by this, was the 2017-2018 season. He played a full season. That was 5 years ago. Since then, he's played 45 games in 2020 and 2021. Obviously, with COVID, it made it a little bit more interesting in 2020, 19 and 20, which is why I didn't really cover it. But he only played 56 last year, as I said. Both of those are career lows. Even at the beginning of his career, the lowest they ever played was like 67. Before the last 2 years. So he's obviously getting older. The team's still relying on him like he's prime LeBron James, which is fine when he's healthy, but it's going to wear him out a lot faster as you saw previously. So the Lakers won't even really make the playoffs if other guys don't stay healthy. And you still have AD, who's also had injury problems throughout his entire career. And they tried, when those 2 guys were hurt, they tried relying on Russell Westbrook more than Russell Westbrook needs to be relied on at this point in his career because he's been so banged up trying to drive in and get all of those triple doubles. So really, they have I don't even want to call it a big 3 because it's really not. But you have these 3 guys who are great in their primes, but they're not there anymore. And they don't really have any other guys on their depth chart to fill in for them if they hurt. So this is really like, it's cool if you're like there the first 2 months of the season maybe, but after that, it's just going to be another problem like it was last season.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny when you said they were going to rely on Westbrook. Like,
I mean, they had to though. Like, you run out of options, or you bring out Carmelo Anthony from whatever bunker he was in. Like, that's literally what they were doing. It was either these young guys who are unproven and undeveloped, and these old stars who have already been well past their prime. I just don't get what the Lakers are doing at this point.
Literally, you're missing like 2 or 3 guys from that like 2010 USA gold medal team, and that pretty much would have been the Lakers roster. Or 2010, 2012, either or.
And Anthony Davis, like, it's kind of the craziest story in like recent history. Like, everyone thought he was going to be the next great big man, and then he won a ring and just hasn't played since.
I mean, But people forget, even that was the reason the Pelicans, like we were talking about why the Pelicans have any success. Yeah, part of it's the front office and just their ownership and all that. But other thing, Anthony Davis was not healthy with the Pelicans. I mean, that's when they made that trade for the 3 Lakers guys and to get Davis. The biggest question mark was Davis going to stay healthy enough to win a championship with the Lakers? Luckily, he was able to for the 2019-2020 season. I think part of that had to do with COVID. You got that nice 3-month break for you to reset your body. You didn't have to go through that physical labor of playing all the way through October to pretty much June. But I mean, they even stayed healthy through the bubble, which is a really testament to them because I didn't even think that was going to be possible. So luckily things worked out for that 1 year and it just hasn't since.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what you said. I don't know where this leaves them, in the quest to win a championship.
I mean, the fact that last year they were the 11th seed, out of 15 teams. They missed the playoffs by a game to a Spurs team that pretty much did nothing in that part of the playoffs. It just doesn't feel like a team that's ready, that is going to win. And it feels like that once these guys leave, they're going to be in such a rut, pretty much from when Kobe left to LeBron. It's going to be like that, except worse.
Yeah, they're kind of in a stalemate because, they can't win with this situation, but at least they have big names, so they're going to continue to just sell out tickets. Right. So
I mean, I'm pretty sure Kobe's, even, not his last year, because obviously he sold out every game his last year, but I think even before that, that was the reason people went to Lakers games, was to see Kobe play. Mm-hmm. It'll be the same thing. But the thing is, LeBron, he's still gonna be decent, but, I'm wondering if he can be a starter for that much longer. I don't know.
To me, that's a hot take.
Well, and I think he can be, but his minutes have to be reduced if he wants to play as long as he wants to. And that's why I don't know, he might be a starter to come out into the gate, but I don't know if he's not gonna play starters minutes that much longer, I don't think. I don't see him playing 35, 40 minutes a game.
Okay,
for 82 games without staying healthy.
Do you think if he had a smaller role playing the same amount of minutes change your decision or your answer to that? Or do you think he's playing too much? Because personally, I think he has too much responsibility on his plate.
And that's what I'm
why
saying.
He's missing time.
Yeah, but the issue is, let's say you reduce his minutes. Do the Lakers' chances of making the playoffs improve because you're giving LeBron more time off?
And that's the issue. It's because you want to get the most out of LeBron, but you also want to, it's not a good situation in LA right now.
No.
Because you want to get the most productive LeBron, but you're not getting 25, 26-year-old LeBron. You're getting 38, 39 LeBron. And this happens with every NBA player. At some point, you start seeing a little bit of a downhill, even if it's not complete. Like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is, I think, a great example of that, because he was consistent throughout his career. However, he needed support during his final years in LA. He wasn't going to carry a team himself, even for as great as he was. And you need that when you get to be that age, especially in basketball, because there's 10 guys on the court. You need as much production from everyone else around you as possible to succeed. It's why Vince Carter was never going to win a championship when he turned 35, 36, because he was still a good player, but he wasn't the same player he was when he was in Toronto in the 90s.
What do you think about Harden, since you just brought that up?
Oh, I think the Sixers are in a very good spot right now with everyone they brought in. And I think Daryl Morey realized that he was not getting the same Harden he had even 4 years ago in Houston, which is why I think that we should keep Maxey, because Maxey's that younger guy who can take up those minutes. Same thing and that's the thing with the Sixers bench. It's except for the 2 or 3 guys we just brought in, it's a very young bench, which is not a bad thing. Because that means that you can I feel like we're going to get the most out of Harden possible now, because we had to rely on him too much in the playoffs. And that wasn't going to lead to success.
I agree, but I think we're asking too much of Maxey from a second to third year jump for him to take over the offensive importance and be the second option above Harden. Because
I mean, he was the second option last year, though.
Yeah,
and he got thrown into that, and I think he did very well. I agree with you that, it's going to be an adjustment. But I think he's someone who likes that challenge. Might he be perfect 100%? Of course not. But as long as he's at that like 85%, where he's at least trying his best, and he's getting and you're getting the most out of him as possible as young as he is, that's what I want to see.
No, I definitely agree that if you're going to succeed with the Sixers are going to succeed this year, they need to find a way to balance out Harden and Maxey. And I think, Caleb, you brought up a great point that the Sixers bench with everyone they brought in has decent depth at this point, which is something they did not have in the last previous playoff run. So I feel like they're at a much better place than the Lakers are, who just, like we were saying, just don't really have anyone on their bench that can really step up if LeBron, AD gets hurt.
Alright, so let's transition to the NFL. It's still like a desert for like stories in the NFL, but I got two things we could talk about.
That's fine.
So the NFL upgraded Watson's suspension to 11 games, and he's going to have to pay a $5 million fine. Thoughts?
So the original ruling when it came out, and this is what some people haven't really realized, is that after all the controversies that the NFL's had when giving out suspensions, they brought in a separate judge to give out initial rulings, and then they would look at that initial ruling and decide for themselves. But at least this time it wasn't just Goodell making all the decisions. So the first person to make a ruling was Judge Sue Robinson, who had been a judge pretty high up and now was working for the NFL. So her initial response to all this was Watson would get suspended for 6 games. The NFL wanted way more than that. It seemed like they were pushing for about a year. They negotiated with the NFL's Players Association, which is the union that Watson is represented by, and that's how they came to the agreement for 11 games, $5 million. My reaction to all this is that I'm glad that the NFL is bringing someone else in, and I can't hold Judge Robinson to all the past rulings that the NFL has made, but it just felt so inconsistent. So I'm going to go with some of the most famous rulings within the past 10 years or so and compare Watson's suspension to this one. Most famous one from the 2010s, Ray Rice given an initial 2-game suspension for domestic abuse. It was not totally clear what exactly happened until the video came out, which was in the middle of the 2-game suspension. He then gets thrown off the Ravens, never plays in the NFL again. The next one is Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy is given a 10-game suspension for also domestic abuse, gets brought down to 4 games, which he serves in 2015, gets later arrested for having cocaine possession, gets thrown off the Cowboys, never plays in the NFL again. The next one is Lane Johnson, gets suspended 10 games for substance abuse policy. This one with steroids, gets suspended 10 games. So that is 8 more games than Ray Rice gets suspended for, and 6 more than Hardy for, again, steroid use. The next one is Josh Gordon, 16 games, also for substance abuse. This one was weed. So that's more than Lane Johnson gets for cheating. It's 12 more than Greg Hardy and 14 more than Ray Rice. And now you have Watson with 11. And again, I'm glad the NFL brought someone else in because Goodell's rulings for all these made absolutely no sense, and there was just no clear ruling about where people stood. And you can throw in Brady in that, well, for the 4 games for Deflategate, which is the same as Greg Hardy for abuse. Yeah, domestic abuse. It makes no sense. None of it made any sense. So I'm glad they have this prosecutor in, but still the Watson ruling with 11 games compared to Lane Johnson and Josh Gordon, it still doesn't feel like enough compared to what some of these other guys got for stuff that was way less than this.
So just a quick question. You might know this off the top of your head. What's baseball's domestic abuse policy
60
again?
games.
So that's still...
It's straight up any single time that something happens, regardless of what the ruling was, regardless of the incident, it is 60 games right away.
But the thing is, that's still less than the 80 games for steroid use. And I understand the historical difference behind that. You brought up Lane Johnson, right? So, technically speaking, because the NFL is shorter, the ruling, unfortunately, the ruling is consistent across sports, which I don't agree with. I'm just bringing that up because, like, it shows how sports deals with domestic abuse versus, like, substance abuse issues. You could bring up Josh Gordon in that, too.
Well, no, and I agree with that argument. My point is, you have to come, like, how you brought up baseball has a certain game suspended for domestic abuse policy. The NFL should do the exact same thing. They should do the same thing for steroids or any drug use as well. You need to set boundaries and make it absolutely clear what the punishment's going to be beforehand. Just throwing out arbitrary numbers for different things, and you can't go case by case. I feel like because baseball tried that and it didn't work, and And once they set that policy, it just works so much better. There's been so much less issues. And obviously there's going to be more issues in the NFL because there always historically has been more issues when it comes to domestic abuse. I just feel like that you need to set these numbers. Hopefully now having a federal judge there, those numbers will be put in place more. Like 6 games will be put in every single time. I just don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, so I touched on this in the Gene episode. I thought it was like weird how they brought in someone with a legal background to deal with like a moral and an ethical issue, which is weird saying because it should be criminal, but it isn't.
Yeah.
And we'll never know why.
Right.
But it is a classic NFL moment that they can't get a punishment right for a player. And I think the 11 games, like, it just shows that like there was a lot of pushback from the NFL because obviously they wanted 17 games, but there was forces going against that. Yeah. And this is a win in the NFL, not a big one.
The thing is, how it was brought up today, I'm trying to remember the analyst, blanking on his name, but it's the former Colts center who's on ESPN all the time.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Jeff Saturday?
Yes, Jeff Saturday was talking on ESPN today, and he brought up a perfect, like, nobody won in this case, because the NFL didn't get what they wanted. Watson still gets to play part of this year and is going to get contracts in the future, and he didn't really get a punishment, even though, like, yes, these cases were filed in civil court, but it just felt like that a lot more should have happened to him, considering how many women were saying that they did the same thing over and over again. And I know that there's going to be people, and I'm not agreeing with this at all, I'm just throwing this out there. There's going to be people that say, oh, like, if it was one, it's just like a few. It's not just 1 or 2. It's 30 women. Like, that's not an accident. That's not someone just asking for money. That is a predatory behavior that needs to be punished. And 11 games is not enough.
Throw out speculation or anything, but I really think there's a huge iceberg to this, especially with the Houston Texans, obviously with the NDAs and the Cleveland Browns for the way they structured his contract. I thought that was kind of sleazy because giving him all that guaranteed money, but making it for the first year, he only gets
$1 million. Yeah. Like, it's no, and that's the whole thing. The NFL does not want there to be a serious punishment. They just want this to go away. Yeah. Why? Because the NFL, on top of everything else, is a business. They want what is best for to make a profit. And the sooner that this goes away, the sooner that they'll be able to make a profit. At the end of the day, that's all they care about. And that's why I think that's why they wanted the full 17 games. And this is the only reason why I think they wanted it. Not because it was better for the product, because and this might sound really bad, and I know that I'm just saying this before I say it the way that I want to phrase it. Having Deshaun Watson on the field is better for the NFL because he's such a great quarterback. I'm not saying he's a good person. I'm not saying he should ever be on the I'm not saying he should ever be on an NFL field ever again. I'm just saying, talent-wise, it's better for the NFL for him to be there. But the storyline for him is not good for the NFL. So they want him gone for a full 17 games. Now that he's coming back in week 12, this story will go away till he comes back. Once he comes back, this story's coming back. Well, it's not going to be a good look for the NFL.
Well, especially since he's playing the Texans the first game he comes back. It's going to be a full-blown storyline. But like going off of what you're saying, it's like when a CEO does something like sleazy, like sexual assault or like sexual harassment, and the CEO just gets fired, but like nothing fundamentally changes. Because like they don't want it to change. They just want to make sure the story goes away so they keep making money.
Yeah. Personally, I wish Deshaun Watson would never step on the field again after everything that's happened. I know that's obviously not going to be the case considering how much money the Browns are paying him, but you can't do this and be rewarded. And with the guarantee money that he was given to the Browns, it was basically a reward for really poor and terrible behavior.
This may sound wrong. Okay, I'm all for second chances. I'm not saying he obviously potentially did this to like 2 dozen women, so that's multiple chances. Yeah. But it is what it is, and he has the right to play football again. Like, given the circumstances, like, he's going to play football again, and if he remains, like, out of the headlines...
Oh, no, fine. And that's the really sad part about this is if there's a player coming out of college that would not expect this from, it would be him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I remember,
his post-game interview, he was wasn't talking about him. He was talking about 2 things, his team and his religion. Usually, when it comes to stuff like that, if you have high morals like that, like, even when he was winning the Heisman Trophy, winning the national championship at Clemson, he was not about himself. And obviously, you don't know everything about these guys. All you see is what's in front of the camera. You don't know what happens behind the camera. But it's just so sad because this is someone that a lot of people looked up to, and it feels like he let a lot of people, not feels like he definitely let a lot of people down.
I mean, I remember his college, his college interviews and stuff, and he would just, I mean, he graduated early. Like, he's a smart dude.
Yeah.
And I think he graduated with, like, above a 3.5 or something like that. Like, he's not a dummy.
This is the whole tragic part of this thing. There is no, like Josh already said, there's no winners with this. It's a really sad story that's not going to go away because the Browns gave him all this money. So, as Jack said, it is what it is at this point, and it's just going to be interesting to see how the storyline develops, especially if the Browns either play really terribly till Watson comes back or play really well and then Watson comes off the suspension. Yeah, and I think that's a really more interesting thing about this whole story, going back to the football, because I really don't want to talk about Deshaun Watson with his athletic ability, with as bad of a person as he is. What happens if Jacoby Brissett just lights the world on fire and the Browns are like 10-1 going off the Watson suspension? I don't think it will happen, but just hypothetically, do you insert your starter, the guy that you're paying all this money to be your starter, if this backup is doing things that you did not expect him to do?
So let's come down to earth here for a second. That's not happening.
No, I was going to say, I was listening to another podcast, and they brought up the idea.
To other podcasts?
Yeah, I actually listen to a lot of podcasts. This one was, they talked about sports in this one, but it was
about cheating in this episode.
Yeah. Someone on the podcast mentioned the idea of bringing Jimmy Garoppolo to Cleveland.
Someone mentioned that on the NFL Network too.
I mean, it wouldn't be the worst idea because Jacoby Brissett is not that guy. He even when he was in New England, he was not that. He's not. He can get you one or two. He can come into a game and maybe win you it, but he's not going to be someone that can play 11 games in the NFL. Jimmy Garoppolo has at least proved that he can play in the regular season and not completely choke. So bringing him in as a backup would not be the worst idea because he can at least get you 11 wins. And I don't think the 49ers really would give up. Like, I don't think the 49ers want that much from him. I think they kind of just want him gone.
True, but I think the Browns are, like, kind of willing to just play this season out because, like, the AFC is too stacked this year. Like, if they don't win the division, they're not going to get a playoff spot.
Yeah, and I think Jack pointed this out, too. The way that they structured the contract, they made it seem like they were expecting him not to play at all this year. Mm-hmm. So I think they're kind of willing to accept this as a lost season. And if Jacoby Brissett's even, like, halfway decent until Watson's supposedly going to come back, I think they'll kind of count that as a win, especially considering that they're in a division with the Bengals who just made it to the Super Bowl. The Steelers have Mike Tomlin and now are looking like halfway decent with George Pickens and getting a decent backup in Trubisky and also drafting Pickett. And you also have the Ravens who, with a healthy Lamar Jackson, who knows how good they're being.
And their running backs are all healthy.
Yeah.
They're fully stacked.
Right, exactly. So I think you're in a really tough division, in a tough conference, now without the starting quarterback that you paid all this money for. So I think you have to take your loss this season and just see what happens after.
This is the other story I was able to scrap for the NFL since there's absolutely nothing going on. Tom Brady, I didn't even know this. Like, he's still been gone from the team. Todd Bowles is non-committal to say when exactly he's coming back. All that is known is that there's a personal issue. You guys concerned at all, or do you think this is getting overblown?
So I will say the first thing that I thought this was for the worst. Luckily that there was a report out of Tampa Bay from one of the local newspapers. There's nothing medically wrong with Tom Brady or his family, which is a big sigh of relief because, as people might forget, his mom had breast cancer in 2016. So obviously if you hear that he's stepping away for personal reasons, people were speculating that could be why. Obviously, Tom Brady didn't say anything. The Buccaneers didn't say anything. It was just some speculation. Luckily, that rumor seems to be debunked, which sigh of relief for everyone in Tom Brady's family. I am sort of, now that that part was cleared up, I'm sort of wondering if he's questioning whether or not he wants to do this. Obviously, he's coming back into his 23rd season, age 45. He already retired somewhat this year, then said he wanted to come back. Obviously, you're talking about someone who is the best quarterback in NFL history, beyond doubt. His legacy is set in stone. He doesn't have to do anything else. I think he maybe thought he wanted to do this. It's possible he got hurt, didn't tell anyone, and now is just wondering if he wants to keep playing again. And obviously the Buccaneers are going to say, hey, our starting quarterback just got hurt. We don't know what we're going to do now. But I think that when you're looking at it through that lens, it could just be sort of like what happened to Andrew Luck, where Andrew Luck got hurt, didn't really tell anyone. I was like, look, I've been hurt all this time. I'm done. And Brady already has so much more of a legacy than what Andrew Luck had that he can step away and it'll be okay. I think the biggest thing for me is as long as he's talking, the only team person representative he needs to be talking to right now is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As long as the Buccaneers know what's going on and he's communicating with them, it really doesn't matter what we know.
Yeah, true. I didn't even look at it through that lens, and it's really interesting you brought that up. And it kind of does make sense, because I wouldn't blame him for getting cold feet for like the offensive line situation.
Yeah.
It
Also
derailed
new coach.
really fast.
First day
Really
of training
fast.
camp.
Yeah,
fast.
like really fast. And
Well,
he's
did you guys
45.
see the picture of him after the 1 day training camp where he was just looking like defeated? I don't know if you guys saw this or not. It was like on the cover of one of the local newspapers, I think.
Here's the other thing about what Tom Brady's doing. There is no precedent for a 45-year-old quarterback starting
No.
coming off of what he just did in the regular season. I mean, there was 2 quarterbacks that come to my mind who played through age 40. Brett Favre, who got hurt at 40 with a concussion and stepped away, and George Blanda, who was a kicker quarterback for the Raiders, and after age 40 did some quarterback but was mostly a kicker. There was no precedent for a starting quarterback to have played this well through his age 45 year. So it could also be, look, he got beat up and told the Buccaneers, hey, is it okay if I sit out the preseason training camp? Why does it matter? He's 45 years old. It is very clear what he's still able to do at age 45. It's not like he's going to learn more of the playbook. It's not like he's going to get better athletic ability. You know what you got in this quarterback. You might as well have him stay healthy, get him in the right mindset for week 1, week 2, week 3, whatever. I mean, even if he doesn't come back late, it's a 17-game season now. You don't have to worry about 16 games, and now you have the expanded wild card. So you can still make it as the 7th seed and still win the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
I think that it is definitely overblown, and people are really concerned about it just because it's Tom Brady, and he's always in the spotlight because he's Tom Brady, even though Brady is a very private guy himself. It seems like you don't really know a lot of what he's thinking. I think he set it up that way, and I think you kind of just have to wait and see, but I'm really not concerned at all.
Well, here's my thing, too. Like, Bruce Arians isn't the coach anymore.
Yeah.
Bruce was the one who got Tom to go to Tampa. So, like, who knows if he's getting along with, I forget.
Todd Boyles.
Todd Boyles.
It is, yeah.
So, I know, and Todd Boyles is respected in the NFL, but, I mean, it's not like Tom Brady went there to play for Boyles. He went there to play with Arians.
True, too.
So who knows how he's getting along with the new system that's there. Even if, and like I said, even if Arians is still heavily involved in the team like he is, doesn't necessarily mean that it's the same type of situation that he went in 2 years ago.
Yeah, that was like a shot in the dark for me when the coaching got changed in the offseason.
I mean,
didn't expect that.
Arians wanted to leave, and I mean, he's older anyway, so I think he was just kind of done and wanted to move on and do something a little more administrative than being hands-on.
I'm also glad Todd Boyles got another chance because he, with how bad that Jets team was that he took over, for him to have a 7-9 record with Geno Smith as a starting quarterback and a pretty older defense and not really that many great weapons, the fact that it took him this long to get another chance at a head coaching job is, again, the NFL just not doing what they're supposed to be doing when it comes to doing the right thing, especially in this case for minority coaches. And obviously that's also a touchy subject, but it feels like that Boyles should have gotten way more chances than just being the defensive coordinator for the Buccaneers. And considering what he did with the Buccaneers defense, the fact that he's now going to be the head coach, I think that Tampa Bay is looking at a really underrated hire this offseason.
And I don't disagree. I just don't know if that's what Brady wants to play.
No.
Yeah.
And I totally get what you're saying with Bruce Arians being the one that recruited him and now leaving. I'm just saying that if you're going to be playing for another coach, Todd Boyles is a great coach.
Well, hey, worst comes to worst, is Kyle Trust time?
Yeah. But I looked at the Buccaneers' backup quarterbacks. It's Blaine Gabbert and Trusk. So it's 2 long-term backups.
No.
Maybe Blaine Gabbert will finally live up to the hype of being the first overall pick.
I remember I follow Freezing Cold Takes, and they posted the Sports Illustrated of that quarterback year, where it was Cam Newton, Blaine Gabbert, and I forget who the other one was.
Well, at least Cam lived up to his potential a little bit.
Well, aside from the truck making a bunch of noise, we did pretty well for being outside again.
We'll be inside next time. For sure.
Oh yeah, we're just going to keep hopping around. We're back in Aiden's backyard from the first episode. Yes.
No tent this time, unfortunately, but it's a nice night, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, out in nature.
For sure.
Alright, that'll do it for this time. We'll catch you next time. Hopefully Jack will be back for next episode. Peace.